Hi Tony, welcome to the AboutMe blog interview series. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing in Budva at WebFest?
Budva. Well, so I'm the founder, or one of the founders of AboutMe, and we're here in Budva for the WebFest .me conference, and Natasa and Predrag were kind enough to invite myself, also Matt Mullenweg from WordPress to come and to speak. So that's what we're doing here. Just in terms of myself, in addition to AboutMe, I've also founded Sphere, and I've been involved in a number of kind of early stage startups, including WordPress, where I'm on the board. But I'm also a part of the founding team of True Ventures, which has about $600 million under management through 3 funds in the U.S.
Cool. So Sphere and AboutMe, you're pretty known for those 2 startups, especially of course AboutMe lately, and you sold basically AboutMe to AOL.
Yes.
And it was one of those startups that a lot of people were surprised that it took off so quickly, so well. Why do you think that AboutMe, being such, a lot of people would say, such a simple idea, just had that kind of traction?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because even for us when we were building it, I think honestly we felt it was a little bit goofy, and I wasn't sure that it was an important idea. You know, it felt like an idea that I was building for myself a little bit, and what happened is I think we struck a nerve and found what I thought was a niche need, but actually turns out to be a very scale-oriented opportunity. In that, a long time ago, I think people had an identity on the web, but that identity has kind of been fractionalized. It's in lots of different places. It's in Facebook, Twitter, your blog, other kind of social interaction points across the web. And what had happened is those services, which started off as representing your identity, something like Facebook is a good example, evolved into something very different. In Facebook, my identity now is a collaboration between myself, Facebook, and my social graph. So I don't really own my identity. I can manage my identity in Facebook, but I don't really own it. LinkedIn, we felt like, was a very one-dimensional representation of your profile, which is about your business persona, and not so much who you are as a person. And we felt like that doesn't really paint the right picture. So the opportunity for us, and I think the reason it's such a simple idea, but the combination of a picture, a great URL being AboutMe in your name, your name, some biotext, and then to be able to pull in those services across the web. If you think about that, not only is it a great opportunity for you to curate a point of view of who you are, but a really kind of very multi-dimensional view of who you are, but it's also a great service to anybody who wants to figure out a little bit more about you. Instead of going to Google and trying to find Tony Conrad in there, which I like to say is like dumpster diving for my profile, because who knows if you get the right Tony Conrad, and am I Tony Conrad the musician or Tony Conrad the entrepreneur, or do I look like that guy or this guy or the other Tony Conrad in Ohio? Like, it's very hard, right, to kind of assimilate a picture of who this person is that you're interested in. If you go to my AboutMe page, I've done all that work for you. This is my LinkedIn, this is my Facebook, this is my Twitter, this is my WordPress blog. It's all the things that I do across the web. So, I think we've been lucky to kind of back into a very large need on the web, but very simple product.
Cool. On the other hand, Sphere had a different audience. It, of course, was used by the end users for searching, but the customers were also companies that were in the media business.
Yes. And
you mentioned in previous interviews how you basically had to sell the idea of Sphere to them. What was the difference for you in basically creating Sphere and then creating AboutMe? What's the difference in the approach to promoting it?
Yeah, well, so Sphere was really super fun and super hard, right? So I think the wave, kind of the big macro environment that we were trying to tap into was that of the blogosphere and the democratization of media and everybody having a voice. And we felt like there was an opportunity to help readers of what I'll call traditional media content on a New York Times article, that when you were reading that article, to actually also be able to see people in the blogosphere and kind of what they were saying about that article. It's almost kind of attaching a social graph, if you want, to a piece of journalism, which now almost everybody is doing, right, in comment streams and all that. But people weren't doing that back when we started Sphere. So we scaled incredibly fast, as you know, and we had a great exit. We were acquired by AOL, my first acquisition by AOL. When we started AboutMe, you know, things changed a lot because, you know, I already had a certain credibility when I did Sphere. I've been in the, you know, venture space and the, you know, entrepreneur space for, you know, a long time. So I had a good network. But after having been successful with Sphere, it really opened a lot more doors in terms of access to a broader set of great investors, a broader set of advisors. As you know, we had on AboutMe when we launched, we had 26 advisors for a 4-person team. A lot of the A-list of, you know, of Silicon Valley, Dick Costolo, CEO of Twitter, Chris Sacca, Veronica Belmont, O'Malley, just, you know, a great list of people. And that's the kind of thing that's kind of the benefit, right, of having had some success and recognition within the community. You have access to those networks. And those networks really help us a lot on AboutMe.
So you mentioned advisors and how it helped AboutMe. If someone wants you or some other, again, A-lister as advisor, someone who can help their startup, is there a chance of getting that, especially from, for example, Montenegro or Croatia or Serbia? Because a lot of, well, if we look at web celebrities are Americans, US based, so they are in US, they are in Canada, maybe Great Britain and so on. How does a startup coming from Europe, especially Eastern Europe, get someone even interested in their project, even to have, for example, a chance of O'Malley looking at their startup?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So how do you create access, so to speak, right, and unfair advantages? The short answer is yes, everybody can do it. I mean, you have a company from this part of the world, Samantha, who has Fred Wilson, who's probably, you know, one of the, you know, top investors in the world, you know, in early stage venture, that is, you know, on their board and an investor. But I think what you have to do at various stages of your kind of career as an entrepreneur, if you're at the very beginning stages, yeah, you probably don't know O'Malley or Matt Mullenweg, but you probably, you know, if you're actively involved in the ecosystem, you're at conferences and you're participating on blogs and in discussions and, you know, whatever, you know, after a while, and very quickly, I think within like a year, you'll have some access to somebody, right, that is, you know, possibly very potentially helpful to you. And if you can get that person or persons involved in your project, then you leverage them to help you to get the next set of people, you know. So even for me, you know, even though I feel like I was connected and I had plenty of advisors, Kevin Rose, you know, who's one of our advisors, I didn't really know Kevin that well, you know, when I started AboutMe. And I knew him and he knew me, but we hadn't really ever talked that deeply. And it's just, you know, so I saw him, I was at the lobby conference, and I said, hey, let's sit down and let's talk. And I shared with him the list of people that were involved in the AboutMe project, and I asked him would he consider joining. It was much easier for him to say yes because of the group of people that he saw that he was opting into being a part of, right? Whereas, had I gone to him first, not really knowing him, it would have been harder, a lot harder, right, to make that ask. So start with somebody very close to your circle that you think is of interest, and then get them to help you to build out the network.
Okay, but again, a lot of people will be saying while watching this interview at this exact moment, Yeah, that's all right if I'm in the U.S. and if I can come to a conference,
Sure.
for example, in Boston or in San Francisco. But what if I'm in Budva and I don't have access to, for now, I don't have access even here, and how in the hell am I going to get access to someone who can maybe...
But you don't have to have access to people only in Silicon Valley or in New York City. I mean, there are great entrepreneurs at Budva. I'm here at this conference. I've already seen 2 or 3 people get up and speak and like, wow, that's a very interesting local entrepreneur. I go back to Samantha as a good example. And, you know, there's a bunch of good companies in this region. So getting those people to be involved is helpful as starting to not only kind of create a movement and kind of tacit endorsement of what you're doing, but it also is a great opportunity for you as a young entrepreneur to learn and build, right? I mean, so many people I think about entrepreneurship as something like, oh, I'm going to go do this and I'm in and out really quickly. The best entrepreneurs are people that are going to be entrepreneurs. It's a career, right? It's just like becoming a banker or an accountant or anything else. It's like, this is going to be my vocation, and I'm going to take a long-term view towards what are the things I need to put in place to increase my chances to be successful over time. So if you're 22 years old, you know, get out there and network, and you know, maybe 5 years from now you will be connected to the local Kevin Rose, or you may have access to the local version of Fred Wilson's money, or you may even be able to go to New York and get Fred Wilson's money. So that's the kind of thing I think people have to take a longer term view and really be dedicated to the cause.
Cool. Talking about money and venture capital, you're a prominent investor. You and True Ventures have invested in Automatic that basically takes care of WordPress, GDGT, Kissmetrics, a lot of very interesting startups, very successful startups already. And again, okay, I want to get funding by True Ventures. I am based in Eastern Europe, and you mentioned that because of various issues you can't at the moment invest in startups here. So what's the way of getting to your fund presenting an idea to you? Is it basically is the requirement to become a US-based startup, a San Francisco-based startup, or is there any chance other than that of getting both your expertise and basically connectivity in the space and basically your capital as well?
So, you know, I think the mission of True Ventures, which, you know, we remind ourselves all the time, is, you know, to serve entrepreneurs incredibly well. And the reality is, when, you know, let's take a startup from here, you know, from Montenegro. It's incredibly hard when we're located in San Francisco for us to be value-added investors, you know, to that startup. Therefore, we're not really serving the entrepreneur very well, in my opinion, when we try to stretch geographically, you know. And there's also the reality at this stage where we're managing $600 million and we have a portfolio of just under 100 companies that, you know, and there's 7 of us, you know, our time is a little stretched, right? You know, ends up being about 15 companies per person, and that's a hard. It's, you know, it's hard to imagine, you know, hey, I'm gonna do a deal in China. I'm just gonna, you know, I'm gonna get myself involved there because I've got a lot of spare time. You know, I don't think that's gonna. I mean, it might be great for us in terms of we might get into a hot company, but what I can assure you is it wouldn't be great for the entrepreneur. It just wouldn't be, because we just wouldn't have the same level of commitment and access, you know, to time that we might have if they were local. So the long answer is yes, you know, for True, I think you need to be, you know, probably a U.S.-based company for the most part. Having said that, we have investments in London, a couple, but, you know, it's really rare, you know, for us to do that.